Are you ready to take the holistic approach towards your mental health? This is Holistically Speaking, and we'll be meeting on Saturdays at 10:15 on YouTube. Hello everyone, I'm Vanessa Reagans, and welcome to Holistically Speaking. This is the very first episode, and I'm very excited to be here. During the episodes, we are going to be hitting the 3 pillars of the Holistic Approach Hybrid Coaching Program that I've created. So the 3 pillars of the program are nourishment, self-care, and personal development. So first, we're going to dive right in to nourishment. And today I'm going to share with you an herb that we can use for our mental health. All right. So I'm going to be sharing with you the awesome culinary herb sage. My personal experience with this before I learned about sage in my herb course was just using it culinary in the kitchen. And I am totally blown away from what I've learned of how we can use this herb medicinally. So let's take a look where the habitat for sage is, where it's the most happy. So the scientific name is Salvia officinalis. It's in the mint family, and the parts that are used for collection are the leaf and the flower. And you want to make sure that you are harvesting this during the growing season, ideally after those hot days, to increase that essential oil content. I thought that was really interesting. And then you also want to make sure it's before the herb flowers. And you want to make sure that you avoid harvesting in the fall to maintain essential reserves so that that plant can survive the wintertime. So let's review the habitat and cultivation. It is considered a sacred plant to the Native Americans, up all the way to this day. Medium heat to full sun, it thrives in that condition. Also prefers alkaline and well-drained soil. It's a woody, perennial, and evergreen shrub, and it's originated in southeastern Europe and in the area that is known as Albania and Bosnia. So let's go over a little bit of the botany. This is where we kind of learn to identify the plants. I've been learning how to identify them. What type of leaf is it? Is it simple or compound? Is it the leaves, do they grow opposite or do they alternate on the stem? So it's very, very fascinating. So we'll take a look here. For sage, the leaf has opposites. You can see here in this diagram, has an oblong shape, and the leaves are bumpy and wrinkled. So when you look at a sage leaf, and you can kind of see it here, when you feel it, there are some bumps and some wrinkles to the texture of the leaf. Let's move down to the flower. The flowers come in late spring and early summer, and they're lavender flowers in color, but they can also be white and pink. Alrighty, so historical uses of sage. This is very interesting. Sage has been used for a long period of time. There's also over 900 species of sage. So salvia means to save. So sage is really good for, and I've read a lot about this as I was doing this project, it's really good for brain and memory as a tea. So we'll go over that in a little bit. And then it stops bleeding in minor wounds. Here's a little history. I'm going to read a little bit of this for us today. So the use of thieves' oil dates back to 1400th century during the Bubonic Plague, aka the Black Death. The Black Death was the spread of an infected fleas found in small animals like rats, and unfortunately, they coexisted with humans as well. So when the disease was allowed to go rampant, it killed almost 50 million people. What happened was once you were bitten by the flea, the infection traveled throughout your lymphatic system. So it hit all of your lymphatic nodes, they began to swell, and then eventually they would burst. There were a group of people who were going around and stealing from the people who were sick. but they were not contracting the Black Death Plague, or Bubonic Plague, excuse me. And so they wanted to figure out what they were doing. And what they were doing was they were stuffing the sage and other herbs. And you can see here in the outfits that they were kind of using, there were a lot of little pockets that they could stuff these little bundles in, and they were not contracting the plague. So they were asked, actually, a judge was so intrigued by this that they asked what they were doing, and they promised that they weren't going to kill them because the penalty was being burned at the stake. And the judge stayed true to his word, but the men were not burnt alive. They were hung instead. So that was unfortunate. So we'll skip over that. And now I want to jump into herbal actions and body systems. So talking about how sage, what body system sage really interacts well with and really, really supports. So herbal actions, something I really loved about so far about being in herb school is understanding that each herb has an action. And it's been very helpful for me to kind of mirror that back to my massage training because every muscle has an action. So it kind of works the same in a bit. So here are some herbal actions for sage. It's antifungal, antiviral, carminative, antibacterial, astringent, bitter, vulnerary, hemostatic, and expectorant. So the ones that are bolded are the ones that I feel are the most important out of this cluster. If you look at a monograph of sage where it talks about all the details of the herb, you will be overwhelmed with how many actions it really does have. This is just a little sliver of what sage can do, but these will mirror the body systems that sage supports. So here are those lovely body systems. So the digestive system, your respiratory system, women's health, and brain health. So we're going to dive a little bit more into this, and so you can see how exactly we can use sage as a medicine. Here we go. So for women's health, it helps regulate the women's cycles, and it can also decrease breast milk production to facilitate that weaning off period. So it's very helpful there, and along with premenopause. We'll go up to the upper respiratory. It helps with cough and hoarseness, any infections of the mouth, nose, and throat, and mostly throat conditions, as you can kind of see highlighted in that picture. Culpepper is a well-known herbalist. I've just learned about him in this program, and he has this really great quote. Sage is of excellent use to help the memory and warming and quickening the senses. So it goes back to, we'll go back to that brain health where I shared a little bit more about that tea. They also share a little bit more in depth about the brain health. So it improves the memory, it inhibits the ACHE, and it improves the scores on word recall. And there are several herbal gram studies that I've looked into. They have done an entire study on how useful it is in treating Alzheimer's disease. And then this is what I love. So this is the part for herbs that support you in mental health. There's an entire study on herbal gram in 2006. They studied how it reduces anxiety. An English herbalist, John Gerald, claims sage tea was good again for that head, brain, and memory. And it also helps, and this is also for mental health, it clears those emotional obstructions, and it promotes calmness and clarity in your brain. Now we'll move to the digestive tract. It helps treat intestinal gas or upset stomach. And it also helps dries up sores and ulcers. So going throughout if you were to take sage as a tea or sage tincture, you could know that would support you all the way down your digestive tract. Another awesome way to utilize herbs in your life is using them as a flower essence and or an essential oil. These are very, very powerful ways of implementing herbalism into your life. And here you can see that sage can be a flower essence. As we said earlier, sage is a sacred plant and known to bring immense clarity into our lives. And the flower essence itself contains the body wisdom of planet Earth. It helps us choose a sage life direction and find our way even in the dark. And it is the master of 4 directions and a healer of opposites. When we need a spiritual roadmap, sage is an excellent essence to take. And that was from Green Hope Farm. And then as an essential oil, it is recognized for its ability to strengthen the senses and support metabolism, a warming circulatory stimulant to the capillaries of the skin, as well as an antiseptic and an astringent. We said that earlier in the herbal actions. And then it's also used energetically to clear unwanted energy. And that also, aside from the essential oil and the flower essence, you can also use sage as a smudger, as a smudge stick. All right, here's sage as a tea. This was very interesting how the properties change with the temperature of your tea. So hot tea or tincture in hot water is an expectorant and a diaphoretic. So this releases the aromatic volatile oils. If you have a lukewarm tea, it's antibacterial and astringent for sore throats. And then a cold tea or tincture in cold water, it decreases swellings and secretions. And it slows down sweating and milk production. And it's an astringent and diuretic. So you can see how the different levels and temperatures of the way that you drink the tea, it will have a different way and different action. It will promote that different action. So there are some safety contraindications here. So contraindicated during pregnancy because of the strong, it has a strong downward, and you don't want to have the body abort the fetus. And then you want to avoid during breastfeeding when you are in that stage and when you are trying to produce the milk, because you do not want to stop that milk flow. You want it to keep going. And remember earlier I stated with women's health that it does help you wean off. So when you're ready, you can use sage for that, but you don't want to do that until that's that time. The essential oil is considered a hot oil, so it can cause irritation to your mucous membranes if it's not diluted. And then this was a big safety contraindication where it contains thujone. This can be toxic to your brain, kidneys, and liver, and it could cause convulsions if used in high doses. And also thujone content, too high a thujone content, that's why you shouldn't use sage during pregnancy, is also can be potentially harmful to the fetus. Part of this project that we did at school was also learning how to use sage in the kitchen, but using it differently. And so we came up with a couple different recipes. This is sage lemonade, which is very refreshing on a hot day. And we have the little recipe there with the directions. And then I made a sage pesto that when I brought it to class, it was totally scraped clean. Everybody loved it. So very excited about this. I'll just go over the ingredients really quick. It's sage leaves, of course. Parsley, I put 4 leaves or 4 cloves of garlic. And then it does call for toasted walnuts. So I have a little warning sign there. So if you are allergic to it, you can choose a different nut or skip that altogether. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. We have lemons in our front yard, so I was able to just take that. A zest of that lemon, half a teaspoon of sea salt or kosher salt, ground pepper, of course, and then extra virgin olive oil. But note on the extra virgin olive oil, you definitely are going to need more because that doesn't seem like enough for me personally. So I would say extra virgin olive oil, to your level. And then optional, if you want to add freshly grated parm to this, you certainly can. I did not. We had vegans in the group, so I wanted to make sure it was okay for everybody who was there. So that was a really, really awesome pesto. And no basil in there, but it tasted really, really good. All right, so usually we would do questions, but I just wanted to, we'll close that for now. And that is the nourishment part. So if you were taking notes for this little portion, let me know if you have any questions on Sage, and I'd be happy to reply and share my new knowledge. So now we're going to transition into the self-care portion. This is where we're going to jump on our yoga mats and do a little bit of yoga, just a little bit. We're not doing a whole class or anything. Just I want to go over, I'm going to introduce the difference between Hatha yoga and Yin yoga, because sometimes the poses are very similar, but they'll have different names and different goals for each pose. So we're going to jump into that. So I'm going to take a few moments to reset here, and then I have a little directions here for you. So what you need, you're going to need a yoga mat, you're going to need a yoga strap and a blanket just for extra padding. If you have it, that would be really, really awesome. You can use that on the mat just for a little extra comfort, but that's totally up to you. So I'm going to start resetting up, and I will see you in a few minutes. All right. So we are going to start with our yoga, and you should have your yoga mat. And if you have a yoga strap by chance, just to have that handy or nearby. You absolutely do not need it, but if you have it, just have it nearby. Alrighty, so there are several differences between Yin and Hatha Yoga. And so we're going to start with Hatha because I'm sure we're all a little bit more familiar with the Hatha style, a little bit more traditional. So come onto the mat. It still does not look. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to come down to our mat, and we're going to start with our legs extended out in front of us, and I like to open up the feet a little bit hip width apart. And we are going to first start with a few gentle Hatha forward folds. So from here, we're going to kind of flex the feet, gently press the knees down. If that's uncomfortable, just keep your knees soft. And then from here, we'll inhale both arms up. Exhale, gentle forward fold. We'll pause here, take a deep inhale through the nose. Long exhale out. Noticing where you're feeling the stretch. Inhale through the nose. Good, long exhale out. Inhale through the nose. Good, long exhale out. Now starting with the base of your spine, we're going to roll the torso up. Head and neck are the very last to come up. Let's do that one more time and really pay attention to where you're feeling that in the legs. And if you're feeling in the back of the legs, do you feel it on the outside of the legs or do you feel it more on the inner thigh? Let's try that again. We're going to flex our feet, keep your knees soft or press them down. Inhale, both arms up. And exhale, gentle forward fold. We'll pause here. Inhale through the nose. Long exhale out. Inhale through the nose. Good, long exhale out. Inhale through the nose. Long exhale out. Starting with the base of your spine, go ahead and roll the torso up. Head and neck are always the last to come up. So you should feel that in the back of the legs. Everybody might feel it a little bit differently. You might even feel it across the lower back a little bit. So now we're going to literally stay in this posture and we're going to do this same pose, but Yin style. And it's going to be a little different. Yin poses are held for longer periods of time. They can be held up to 1.5 minutes, all the way up to 5 minutes, and very, very advanced Yin yogis can even hold those poses all the way to 10 minutes. I am not there at all. My limit is about 3 minutes. So we're going to try 1.5 minutes today because I just want you to feel the difference between a Hatha pose and the Yin pose, even though they're the same in a sense. So we're going to do caterpillar. So that was our forward fold, and this is called caterpillar. And so what we're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to keep the feet and ankles soft, keep your knees soft, hips soft. And we're going to hold this. I have a timer here, and we're going to hold this pose for 1.5 minutes. There's a few principles I want to share with you. So the first principle of Yin is on a scale of 1 to 10, you want to keep that tension in the body between a 4 and a 5. As the body softens, you want to bring that tension back and you want to stay there. That's the way you're going to benefit from the pose the most. Number 2, you want to make sure that you stay as still as possible. I'm still working on my stillness in my yoga practice, so be gentle with yourself. If you need to move, I say move. And then last but not least, simply holding the pose and making sure that you're breathing into that tension. All right, let's try this together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the very top of our head and try to point it down towards the toes or towards the floor. So you're going to start moving your head down first and then move the neck, moving the upper
shoulders, in between the shoulder blades, letting that fold first. Noticing where you're feeling this tension in the body. Remembering to find that tension on a scale of 1 to 10 between a 4 and a 5. So keep letting your head drop nice and heavy. Keeping your feet soft. Noticing any sensations in the body. Starting with the base of your spine, go ahead and roll the torso up. Head and neck are the last to come up. So noticing the differences, if you should have felt it along the side of your spine, all the way down the back, as you start bringing the head down and you start allowing yourself to kind of fold into the caterpillar pose. That's the difference between the Hatha forward fold and then the Yin, same posture, same position, but doing it a little differently and different purposes. So for Yin, you want to make sure that you do your Yin practice as early as possible. We're still probably pretty tight this morning, so it's totally fine to do that. But typically in the morning. And the reason for that is Yin is addressing our connective tissue versus Hatha is addressing your muscle tissue. So connective tissue are all the ligaments and tendons that go along the spine, connecting your bones to the muscles. So we're addressing those areas versus Hatha's really targeting your muscle tissue. All right, so I want to do another Yin pose, but a different one, kind of doing the same thing here with the 1.5 minute hold. And so this time, what I'd like us to do, there's a couple different ways we're going to do the same, bring your head down, but I want you to choose which way you would like to have your legs. So the first option is open up your feet wider than your hips and doing the same thing, soft ankles, soft knees, bringing your head down. Or if you'd like, and that we can do butterfly, where we can bring our feet together and then bring the top of our head down towards the floor. So you can choose whichever is most comfortable for you. You can just open up simply. You can do, basically it's caterpillar, just a little bit wider with your feet, and then, or you can choose to bring your feet together. I am going to do the butterfly for this round. All right. So go ahead and find that posture. We're going to take the very top of our head and point it down towards the floor. And for those of you with your legs extended, if you start to feel it in your legs, bring yourself back up, roll yourself back up, and try again, bringing the top of your head down to the floor.
just like we did in Caterpillar. Go ahead and start with the base of your spine and roll the torso up.
Usually my timer has a nice little jingle and it's not doing that. For those of you who are in butterfly, take your hands to the outside of your knees and gently bring them together, and then slide your legs out straight. Those of you who have your legs your feet wider than your hips, bring them back to hip width apart. So that is going to conclude that self-care section. One of the main parts of the Holistic Approach program is focusing on having you create and formulate a dedicated yoga practice along with Qigong and kind of mixing those into your life. So let's transition to personal development. This is our third pillar. One topic that I am very passionate about is yoga and body image, and how that has evolved throughout time, and what our society is saying about yoga, what it's supposed to look like, what you are supposed to look like, what you are supposed to wear, all of that. I want you to come to any class that I'm teaching as you are. The clothes that you're wearing for yoga should be flexible, obviously, but they don't have to be a certain way, a certain image. And I found this incredible book when I was going through my first yoga teacher training to actually become an instructor, and it's called Yoga and Body Image, and it's 25 personal stories about beauty, bravery, and loving your body. So I'm not going to read a whole story today, but I did find a really cool section that I just flipped to, and I felt like that was a sign. So I'm going to read to you the 9 unexpected ways that yoga improves body image. Let me say that again. The following are the 9 unexpected ways yoga improves body image and the innate intelligence of your body. So number 1, yoga lowers stress and cortisol. So after decades of balancing the hormones of thousands of women, I can confidently tell you that chronic stress and elevated cortisol are wreaking havoc on the weight, memory, mood, and sex drive of millions of women. Our modern lifestyle has turned us into stress cases who would rather go on Facebook than have sex with our partners. The worst part is that cortisol has the power to throw the other main hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and your thyroid, out of whack. So before I continue moving on, I just want to give credit to this Dr. Sarah Gottfried. Hopefully I'm saying that right. She wrote this story in particular out of the 25 stories, and it's called Yoga is More Than Just a Workout. So that is where these 9 ways that yoga improves your body image and innate intelligence come from. So that number 1 was yoga lowers your stress and cortisol. Number 2, yoga conquers cravings. So you might be surprised to learn that the way to banish food cravings is not a 100-calorie snack or the latest
lose diet bar. In fact, it's managing your stress and cortisol levels. And the downstream benefit is fewer cravings for that carb of the day. Lowering your correct cholesterol and managing your stress lowers your glucose levels, and you'll see your cravings disappear. Massage and acupuncture have both been shown to lower stress, and so have low impact exercises such as yoga. Although stress may keep you up at night, now getting at least 7 hours of shut-eye per night will also help you regulate cortisol levels and stay on the right cortisol schedule for your body. A burst in the morning to wake you up, and then a slow taper off over the course of the day that aids in that relaxation, in that parasympathetic state. Number 3, yoga is superb exercise. I completely agree with this. And so before I continue with this, I believe that yoga gives us invisible changes. So you don't know what's really happening. You might not see what's happening, but every time you do a sun salutation, you are strengthening and all of the connective tissue around your joints, and you're strengthening those muscles to help support you in your movements throughout the day. So let's read what Dr. Sarah says. Unlike high impact running, which increases cortisol, yoga lowers it. I've been a runner all of my life, and after adding yoga to my routine, I lost weight, gained energy, and actually felt rejuvenated instead of depleted after my workouts. For stressed out people, yoga provides a form of exercise that prevents hormones from going haywire and keeps cortisol in check. Number 4, yoga makes your breath beautiful. The focus on the breath and the meditative aspect of yoga also help change the way your mind interprets stress, leading to lowered cortisol levels and a calmer day-to-day. Yoga can be a serious workout, yes, but it can also be a quiet moment for yourself. Number 5, yoga upgrades awareness. I definitely agree with all of these, and especially number 5 right now. It's my opinion that body awareness is at an all-time low. Women are more likely to indulge a sugar craving than they are to set an earlier bedtime because they have never had a chance to get to know their own personal needs and rhythms. Becoming intimately familiar with your body's flexibility, breath, and quietness, or lack thereof, of mind is a sorely under-recognized benefit of yoga. One of the most important types of awareness that yoga emphasizes is that of your breath, pranayama. It's the breathing technique of yoga that is said to increase physical and psychological performance. Deep breathing on its own has been proven to reduce stress and improve heart rate variability. But when you combine it with when you combine it with deep stretching, balance, and muscle building, that's one heck of a recipe. Number 6, yoga amplifies the happy brain chemicals. Have you ever talked to someone who practices yoga? I bet you've never heard them say something to the effect of, I just feel so good after I do yoga. Whoops, let me say that again. I bet you've heard them say something like, I just feel so good after yoga. They're not talking about the pride that comes after completing 90 minutes of Bikram. Yoga has been shown to raise your serotonin, the happy brain chemical responsible for mood, sleep, and appetite. Women have 52% less serotonin than men, according to my friend Daniel Amen. Oh, Dr. Amen, he's so cool. So that may be just one of the reasons we see fewer dudes on the mat. Women need yoga to balance our serotonin, feel buoyant, sleep soundly, and put down the fork. When you increase body awareness, one of the greatest benefits is the knowledge of how your actions affect your health. Rather than overeating, you remember how bad you felt the last time you binged on ice cream. Yoga also teaches us how to recognize and forgive ourselves for bad habits. Instead of the depressing cycle of eat, guilt, eat, we learn to let our past transgressions go and pave the way for better, healthier choices. Number 7, yoga freshens up your blood and organs. I'm going to summarize this. Every time you do a yoga pose and you're twisting the spine in a seated spinal twist, you're wringing out the organs. Every time you are lifting your leg in Warrior 3, You are activating certain muscles to work differently than they do on a regular basis. So, whoops. So it really does help you do that. So every time you're wringing it out like a sponge, and then it's opening it back up. And it's clearing out all of that debris out of your organs and purifying your blood. So that is why you feel so amazing after yoga. Number 8, yoga is good medicine. Ayurveda is an ancient medical system of India that is based on the use of food, botanicals, meditation, and the movements such as yoga. The Sanskrit term literally translates to scripture for longevity. To me, Ayurveda is the true fountain of youth. Number 9, yoga is self-love. This is the last one. There are certain habits and practices woven into a yogi's lifestyle that promote longevity and happiness, such as eating whole, seasonal foods, wearing comfortable clothes that are made out of natural fibers, and supplementing your lifestyle with botanicals that make you feel better, lighter, and happier. When you start doing things for yourself that create such positive effects, from weight loss to a sunnier mood, it's addicting, and in the best sense of the word. If I could, I would prescribe self-love of this nature to every single person I meet. You were born with intrinsic knowledge of how to heal. Somehow, cultural distortions and conditioning derailed you or us. Radical self-acceptance and self-love are your birthright, and you can reclaim it. Well, thank you, Dr. Sarah. That was incredible. So she's got quite a story in this book here, and there are 25 different ones. And so this is the lovely book. And it's just nice if you ever need a little pick-me-up, or you just want to flip through and read that one story that you flip through. All right. So this is a brand new series that I will be doing every Saturday at 10:15. I had a little bit of a technical issue this morning, so I will definitely be on live, and I'm very excited to share with you every week the 3 pillars that we focus on in the Holistic Approach Hybrid Coaching Program: nourishment, self-care, and personal development. So if you are interested in learning more about my program, I want to invite you to visit theholisticapproach.health. And you can visit that here. You can see that website on the bottom there, and you will be able to, it's a very brand new site, but go ahead and check it out. And you'll also be able to see, I hope all of these lives will be streaming from the website, so you can watch it on YouTube, or you can watch it directly there if you can. And if you know anybody who would benefit from this weekly show, please let them know how to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this very first episode of Holistic